We need to talk about the SP 500 and the Nasdaq 100. We have Biden speaking right now, and this is what he said earlier before he started speaking. He said he is threatening these oil companies because they're making too much money. Yes, you heard that right. Because they're making too much money to enforce windfall tax on them as well if they do not comply with basically his demands, okay? This is literally his words. He's threatening these companies. If they don't do what the government says, the federal government, then this is going to happen. You're going to pay more money compared to all other companies. He is attacking private industry. This is not an attack on Biden. This is an attack on what's happening with these overall companies, okay? So when we go into this as well, we need to talk about exactly what's happening in here. Before we get into that, I ask you to consider doing two things: liking and subscribing. Every single day, I'm going over the market, breaking down what's happening from an unbiased standpoint, giving you exactly what I'm looking at on the market and where I am looking to trade every single day. Now, when we come in here, I want to look at indexes first and just show you where we're at. Big levels to be watching. On the high level on NQ, on Nasdaq, you're looking at 11.7. You did not get a test of that today, and it's probably not going to happen before the Fed meeting. On the downside, the big level is 11.440. This is your previous high you had back on the 18th, and this has been a major level to watch, right? We can come all the way in here and look. You can see how you've tested it. You lost it for about 30 minutes on the day, then you bounced back up. Now, we're going to go into ES as well. I need to talk about all of these indexes before we go too far so you can see. ES, if you look here, you're testing that $3,900 level and you rejected all day long. Once, twice, three times, almost 4, 5, 6, right? Continuous rejections from 3,900 to 3,895 all day long. Rejected. SPY. You can also see this here. Your previous highs you had back on the 28th or 26th coming in here. Look at all the rejections. Every single hour on the day, you rejected from this level repeatedly. Rejections across the board. Okay, so keep this in the back of your mind. We're going to come back here in a second. But I want to highlight what's happening here. So Biden made this announcement via the White House, and then he said he would be talking on the after hours, basically 30 minutes after market closed. Now, this is what was said, and this is what I recommend viewing. He highlighted two of the biggest oil companies, Exxon, which is performing the best on the year, and Shell as well. From there, he said profits from the U.S. oil companies that do not invest will be directly taxed. And I do not know if he is holding out when they're doing buybacks, because these companies have been doing massive buybacks, but he is not happy. And he's telling you, he's voiced this. You can go look at what he's been saying over the past few days. He literally said they should not be paying out bonuses to their employees. They should be using the profits to lower prices of gasoline. I'm going to have this link down. This is everything that he was saying today before the after hours speech. You can watch that speech on YouTube if you want. But anyways, this is everything that's being said. Oil companies made billions in profits this quarter. He tweeted this. They're using these record profits to pay out their wealthy shareholders instead of investing in production and lowering the cost for Americans. It's unacceptable. It's time for these companies to bring down the prices at the pump. It's worth mentioning as well, if you look at what's happening here specifically in West Texas, they are actually increasing the production of oil. It's evident, it's clear data. It's the most they've increased production since prior to 2020. So they've actually increased across the board this year, despite OPEC not increasing. So it's hurting these companies to increase to the production they're doing it. They're still making money, but he's not happy that they're not doing it more, right? This is what Biden's saying. This is what our government's saying. And you need to understand how dangerous this is, that he is threatening these companies specifically. And we talked about this in Discord today, but I want to highlight how this can greatly affect other companies and why this is so bearish in general. If they are doing this with oil companies and they're saying, look, in the case of Exxon and these other oil companies, you made them raise taxes because they were not lowering costs for consumers. Can they do this with EV? Can't we do it with interest rates on banks because banks aren't lowering rates enough? This hypothetically could come back and hurt other areas of the market, because legally you're always using past cases to determine forward-looking cases as well. So these are things you need to be looking at and causes for concern. I'm not saying this is going to happen anytime soon, but overall what he's saying here is terrible. This is literally attacking private industry. Shout out to Cajun for pointing that out. This was a massive area to be looking at on the market, and I think you have to highlight what's being said. Biden, I cannot believe he even said this on the day, but then again, we can't really imagine what he says half the time because it's just craziness. Going into tomorrow, we have some decent news coming out. If you don't know, Wednesday is the big day. That's the Fed decision, the rate hikes, and how they're going to be moving forward. If there's going to be a quote unquote pivot, I do not believe there will be, but we'll have to see. Tomorrow, 15 minutes after market open, you get some PMI data. You're going to get manufacturing employment and JOLT job openings going at 10, 30 minutes after market open, and then ISM manufacturing PMI. These are going to be things we need to look at. Again, people are going to be asking me in the comments, where do I see us going? I have no idea. I have no idea how this data is going to come out. I'm still overall bearish on the economy. I still have my Q puts. Those did move pretty well on the day when we had that initial drop. I did not sell. I ended up holding all of my puts. I think I sold like 2 or 3 of my shorter dated ones, but my longer ones, I'm holding all of those. There's no reason to cut those for myself right now. I am willing to take that risk on the market. Now, when we hop back in here, I'm just going to give you my viewpoint, key levels you need to be watching on the indexes, okay? These are what I think you have to watch. When you're looking here, 3,900 on ES, that's your level. If you get above that, I think you have room to go up, okay? ES 3,900, big boy level. NQ, your main level you got to watch is this 1144 area. This is the area you got to watch. I believe this is the writing on the wall. If you're not following me on Twitter, I've been posting like crazy. So I recommend following me on Twitter so you get all these, literally all day long, I'm just posting charts so everyone can see, going over the heat map. It's also worth mentioning on the day, the only consistent green area, guess where it was? Energy. And guess what happened when Biden made this announcement? The market dropped 100 points instantly. So keep in the back of your mind, do what you got to do with that information. But Biden, tearing down energy companies, it's not going to help the economy. And they're probably not going to change any of their policies. So when you're looking here, big area you got to watch. If you hold this, you have to just, remain kind of like you're going to bounce and chop in this area. Although I don't see a very big move coming before the Fed meeting. Honestly, going into the Fed meeting, I think trading this is just kind of stupid because every time you're dropping here, even on ES, I highlighted this in Discord as well when you come in here. So I'm just going to show you really quick. I was going over Bookmap and showing you the movement on what was happening. And when you get in here, you can see they stack all that liquidity near the bottom. So you'll bounce up, they'll move the liquidity, move it to the top side, and they'll keep you trapped in a range right now. That's how you're moving. It's also important to realize when you're looking at volume on the day, around 35% of your volume on the S&P came in literally the last 15 minutes of the trading day. If you bring volume up, your volume had a massive spike here going into the end of the day. Roughly 40%. You were sitting at 67 million going into about 30 minutes left in the day, and you ended the day around 96, 97 million. So it was a massive spike to the upside, getting that volume coming in. You really didn't have any clear direction either. It's just trash volume coming in. That's my personal opinion. When you come here as well, looking at what's happening with flow, looking here, again, a lot more downside positions coming in, and they look a lot more aggressive. We've seen a lot of in the money puts being bought, but now they're becoming more aggressive. They're sweeps. They're not blocks, right? These are things you have to be looking at. And a lot of this time is coming in for January 20th and December 16th. You need to be watching those days. Going into SPY, a little bit less of a concern with tech, but again, that's why I'm shorting Qs, is because I believe tech is the most at risk. But SPY, you still saw a little bit of aggressive orders come in here as well, and you saw some calls come in. It wasn't as bad, okay? But still, Qs leading the market as far as the concern goes towards the downside, right? I want to make sure that's very well known. Going into VIX, VIX has been dropping all day long. I want to highlight this. This is kind of interesting behavior here, because we weren't really getting nasty drops on VIX. If you come out and zoom out what was happening here on the 1 hour, yeah, we've been dropping, don't get me wrong, but when we were spiking on SPY, it was kind of just chopping to the downside, up and down, and then now we've been dropping here. And on today, we didn't really get any real movement, just chop back and forth, and VIX proceeded to just decline all day. This is interesting where you're going. We're coming back to that $24, $25 region, which we have been looking for here on the channel, and I do believe this area hits, I think we could see a really nasty bounce and spike on VIX as well. Now, the big area of this video, again, I'm not going to be doing too many like stock breakdowns, because In my opinion, it's just terrible price action to be day trading. That's, again, my opinion. I'm not doing any day trades here. If you look here, again, I post this on Twitter as well. DXY, you've bounced from our zone. And guess what? Non-stop upside here. The fact that the market's even holding up is crazy to me, but I believe we're definitely setting up for nasty, nasty downside. If you also want to see what was happening here, I want to make sure everyone can see this as well. When you come in here, it's already been said, Japan spent $43 billion in October to defend the yen. So what they were doing, as well with China, they were selling the dollar in order to prop up their currency. But guess what? Even using the $40 billion to get you to drop here, guess what? You're already climbing back up once they stop doing this. Very clear. Looking at this from, an unbiased viewpoint, TLT, your treasury bonds, getting absolutely slapped all year long. This has been one of the best ways to look at the health of the economy. The 20-year bonds generally do very well when the economy is healthy. You were getting a nice spike over the last week, and guess what? Today, nothing but downside. This is one of the few times that this is not correlated with SPY and indexes, but guess what? You're dropping on the day as well. Following and, in my opinion, confirming that we need to be vigilant and watching the dollar, because the dollar is going to give us our answer with what's happening right now. The dollar is bouncing back aggressively, and it's not having a care for what indexes are doing right now. So in my opinion, I still believe the dollar remains strong and indexes remain weaker. Until the Fed says anything about a pivot, that's where I have to stay. And if you didn't see my video yesterday going over what Goldman Sachs regarded with getting the new ceiling for hikes being at 5%, that's a big concern as well. That would be very bearish for the economy. And guess what? If you're looking here, it looks like the dollar is definitely reacting to that information towards the upside here. So that's what I'm looking at here. That's how I view us moving right now. And that's the overall viewpoint when it comes to the dollar and indexes as a whole. I don't want to waste time going over, Tesla and Apple and these. We've gone over their charts enough. But right now, I just don't believe it's a good environment for day trading. And I would be kind of, wasting your time and not being very transparent with you if I went over that information. That's how I'm trading. I have my Q puts. They're dated. I'm sitting on them. I'm waiting for the Fed meeting. I still see downside coming. I'm a bear, unfortunately, here. If you have questions, I would love to answer them. So comment down below. Shorter video for the day. I'll see you tomorrow.